is it possible for a challenger brand to grow up?
Certainly possible for it to grow. Whether we've ever grown up, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I mean, we now as a business are in 14 countries. We're turning over £300 million, and I think we very much stuck to the original ethos. You know, the founding thought of the business was, how do we make it easy for people to do themselves some good? And you know, it's our 18th birthday this year, unbelievably, and I think we've very much stuck to that. And that's probably a more relevant thought today than it's ever been. And you know, we've kept purpose, vision, and values, you know, at the heart of that, with a big long-term ambition of being the Earth's favourite little food and drinks company, but milestones along the way. And I think that combination has allowed us to keep attracting talent, keep the culture alive through many phases of the business. So I think we're hopefully some form of proof that the challenger spirit, the challenger mindset isn't just all about the first phase of a business, but you know, we're probably in our third phase now as a company, and it's still very much alive. For those of you who've been to Fruit Towers, you know, it still lives and breathes what it was like for me even 10 years ago.
So a challenger doesn't have to be essentially youthful and irreverent and maverick.
No, I think it's about the type of people you recruit and attract, and their hunger to challenge the status quo, to get better, to continually improve. That's the kind of people that we're looking for. You know, we're not happy sort of being comfortable and, oh yeah, we're big now, we've made it. We're, I guess, sort of relentlessly hungry for what's next.
So Amelia, where would you think the collective is in its life stage? Are you a baby? You're a toddler? Where are you?
Yeah, I think we're at toddler stage, definitely just out of nappy. He's probably following the same route as my son, who was born in year 1 and he's now 4, so just going to school, so probably following a similar journey. We started off 2 people in an office, we now have 20, and we're trying to put in place controls, procedures that will allow us to still be nimble and keep all the values at heart and grow up and grow as a team and still be really flexible as we grow. And that comes with headaches, it comes with lots of challenges all the time, but I'm trying to find a way to keep those values alive as we grow. And we're at a really pivotal stage now, getting beyond the 20 million mark, where teams will grow at quite a pace now.
And Matt, I know you think it's kind of in one's nature rather than anything else. Do you think it's possible to be a grown-up challenger?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very possible. I was just thinking about the question. I think it really goes down to corporate governance and the permissions that you have as leadership. You need, if you want to be a challenger, that's all very well, but if your board aren't necessarily behind it and pushing you in other directions, then you don't have the permission to go and explore these areas and play.
And have you witnessed that in Just Eat? Did you have that kind of
points
where you had that governance right and points where you had it wrong?
Not really. I mean, for me, like, as we've discussed many times before, it's like challenger brands have to emerge from the team. So you can't just fake it. You can't just become innocent. You know, if you're already a fruit juice company, that has to come from the people that are innocent, that believe in those values. And so for like Just Eat, it was a rebellious Danish-based company originally, so it made sense for us. We just by nature were a rebellious brand. But as we got bigger, of course, you can't hire 1,000 rebellious people. You're not going to get very far. You just be fighting the whole time. So of course, you hire more and more professionals, and by nature, the kind of pool of people becomes more professional, as does our output in a way by accident. So although you can try and hold on to your values and list what you think they are, I remember I was trying to ban cooking. Obviously, we don't cook, just eat, and we even ran for government on that ticket, and got 75 actual votes. So that was so proper. So I was trying to ban cooking and run for government and all that kind of stuff. And then the tech team were having a baking competition. I was like, no, we're trying to ban cooking. What about don't cook, just eat? Are you lot not understanding it? It's written all over all the walls. Yeah. So for me, that was like clues that the culture is changing. Okay. So I can't force them not to do cooking competitions. I need to reflect who they're becoming.
Okay. And do you think there's a tipping point in size when it all goes wrong? I mean,
I think it goes down to the leadership. If you've got, if your founders are there and they are they've got the challenging ethos, and if they leave and ensure that that's passed on, like seems to be the case in Douglas's case, then that's all well and good. But sometimes that's in the nature of the people that run these companies, like Steve Jobs or whoever. They're the challengers, and it's very hard to then write that into a bill of rights for the people that come in and take over, whose main job is to hit some numbers.
Douglas, did you feel like there have been moments in Innocent's life stages where it's actually kind of struggled to maintain that sense of identity and its challenged the spirit, or has it been easy all the way?
Certainly many challenges along the way, but I think we've always been absolutely ruthless about recruiting against the values. And sounds like a cliche, but any interview at Innocent, the first one is, can they do the job? And then generally there's a pretty hard process of interview 2, 3, and 4 of, does this person fit the culture? Does this person contribute to the kind of spirit that we want in the business? And so really working hard to find those people as we grow. And we've always managed to grow at a pace that generally we've done that. And the sort of we adopted the famous Steve Jobs better a hole than an arsehole approach, and we've run with quite a lot of gaps quite a lot of the time. So put pressure on the team, but make sure you're not bringing in the wrong people and growing too fast with the wrong people, because that's where the problems start.
Okay. All right. That's a Steve Jobs quote I've never heard before, actually. I'm going to use that one again. And Amelia, do you feel like at the moment it's hard to maintain a culture? Because you mentioned the values word. I think we're going to come back to that, because I think it's always very easy to say Challengers have fantastic cultures built around values. So tell me about values and how that's helped you or hasn't helped you.
Yeah, I've tried to keep it very simple and try to reiterate the values all the time. So we've got 4 that we live and breathe all the time, and they are really simple: making things happen, being easy to do business with, knocking the socks off, and that could be retailers, consumers, each other, and working together, which again sounds a bit of a cliche, but the teams really have to work together.
Where did they come from?
So when Mike and I started the business, we started the business 5 years ago. He very sadly passed away a year and a half ago. We making things happen and being easy to do business with, when we started with 2 desks in a room, were the 2 things that we used to live by. So making things happen is when people are going, and we have a board in the office where people they're writing post-it notes to when they've just seen an action from somebody else. And yesterday we were reading them all out, and it could be anything. And it's shifting that dial. So when we started with nothing, it was, how do we sell more? How do we get our yogurts listed? How do we do things and move that dial forward? Being easy to do business with was another one where we were starting thinking, well, how can we make it really easy for retailers to list us? How do we get those listings really easy? How can we not be a headache when they're filling in their admin forms to list us? And again, we have to stand out versus the competition. So being easy to do business with is just a mantra of just trying to think, how can you walk over to someone's desk and have a conversation rather than an email, or make things complicated?
Right.
So we're reiterating them all the time, and then we also bonus against them, have them in appraisal forms. And they're just very simple. They're around the office, and it's trying to have things that are really memorable.
Okay.
And reiterate them and hire against them. And
the other 2, so the last 2,
Yeah, so knocking the socks off. So that used to be called surprise and delight. So sometimes we turn up at the doors of people that had written into us, or how do we surprise buyers? And we want to be memorable. So we're not trying to be memorable for memorable sake, but how can buyers be thinking, the collective doing things something a bit different? How do consumers? We handwrite all our postcards to people. We send consumers Christmas cards every year very differently, and just to give that element of, that was a bit different, or wasn't expecting that, or the collective are doing things differently. And then working together, I think when you're getting bigger and you're building the teams, you can very easily become siloed, and sales are only talking to sales. How do you work across and become stronger together? And all the teams work very closely in an open plan environment, so it's keeping that going. But that will become a challenge as there's more people. I mean, Douglas, you were talking about, nearly 200 people in an office. How do you keep those values? And those are the things going through my mind at the moment, of how you keep that culture alive.
And you've got how many values, and where did they come from?
So 5 values, and they came from, after about 3 or 4 years of the business, as we kind of expanded from the sort of 50 people to 100 people, a need to codify them. And it was one of those classic exercises of getting the people in the room to codify in simple language what it meant to be an employee of Innocent. And they've stood the test of time since that was 2004. And 13, 14 years later, they still feel very right, and they're used, as you say, very actively, throughout the business. So,
I think I'm right in saying both of you have very visible values that you use actively and visibly. Did Just Eat have anything like that? You did?
Yeah, we were quite. I think it's interesting, like you say, recruiting against those values. I think we were very good at articulating what they were and what we expected people to be. I can't quite remember because I've not been there for 2 years, but like being frank with each other, working as a global team, these kind of things. But it's very hard to sometimes recruit, in the recruitment process, to spot people that are going to be innovative thinkers and creative thinkers. And I think that's especially when you're growing as fast as Just Eat did, it was like over 1,500 people when I left. That was 2 years ago, so it's probably even bigger now. So it's very, you can be aware of them, and we were asking people to recruit against them. But when you're growing that fast, you're not necessarily holding your feet to the coal.
I mean, we have one of our values is about being natural, and we had this thing called, in the interview, as you walked out and you have that moment of, do I love this person, do I not? Are they quite right? What am I going to... We had this thing called the grassy van test, where you ask yourself, right, you've got to drive to Cornwall with them in the grassy van. Is that going to be a good experience or a bad experience? You know, and if you got to Cornwall, visualize yourself arriving in Cornwall, think, yeah, that's going to be a really interesting conversation. So I drive down the A303. Then you're like, okay, they're probably going to be right for the business. So it's more simple language sometimes that gets used inside the business that helps unlock. Sometimes the values can feel very sort of,
well, I have to say, I mean,
laminated and not
surprise
loved.
and delight doesn't float my boat at all, but knock your socks off is somewhere nearer to being really understandable. Yeah. And I remember talking to you just first about Just Eat. Actually, you were raving about this mad kind of Danish English. You just were in it for the fun to start.
Yeah, you couldn't take it too seriously. It's kebabs.
Yeah. How serious can kebabs be?
But now it's worth billions, so you have to pretend to take it seriously. Nobody sell you shares. I was joking.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a kebab website at the end of the day. So for me, it's like you can't take it too seriously. It's selling kebabs. No one to eat that.